Thanks, Don, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking forward to telling you about the project which is our current focus at the moment. And I've put into a presentation which is now public domain the disclaimer, and there's some information on the company, and there's other information which is too hard and too much to go through in the short time frame I've got this morning, but it's there. Come and talk to me at the booth and look at all this information in your own time. I'll now get on with talking about the project, which I think is the more exciting thing. So we're in the Archean of WA, the greenstone belt, familiar to all of you. It's a small greenstone belt. We're down in the south of Western Australia, halfway between Albany and Esperance, for you who know West Australian geography. It's a known mining jurisdiction. We've got, more importantly and interestingly, the Mount Catlin Lithium mine, which was Galaxy, recently changed its name to Alchem, right next door. You can't work on our lease, which is shown on this slide as that green area on the top side of the slide. You can't work on our lease without listening to the distant rumble of the crushing plant at Mount Catlin. You can hear the clatter of the caterpillar tracks in the open pit. So we're very close to that action. Down the road is the First Quantum Laterite nickel project. We've got a stranded base metal deposited Trilogy. And we've got another company 20 kilometres south of us drilling out a 600 ounce or million ounce deposit on what they call the Ravensthorpe Gold Project. But a bit further to the east is the old RAV8 nickel mine mined out. But so, this is typical greenstone terrain. It's prolific. It's had a long history. I think it was Australia's first copper mine for a while and only copper mine for a while. And we've adopted the name Mount Catlin Gold Copper Project, and I guess because we're so close to the Mount Catlin Lithium Project, which is right next door. And let's just have a quick look at the geology. No need to get too much into that. So the features I want to draw your attention to here is that little red box feature is our tenement. It's quite small. And so we aren't talking about huge acreages, but far more important, I draw your attention to that to the yellow elliptical feature, which is what we're calling an intrusive complex. And you can see that that is central to our tenure, and right next to the Mount Catlin lithium mine. And now that's what I'm getting excited about and want to talk to you about. The features that you should take off this slide is that our tenure and that intrusive complex is on the northern side of a fold structure, and there's some big structures, a fold feature, the Maniuptup tunnelite sort of in the centre, and then everything folds around it. And take note of these large, darker flat lines that go to the north. These are large structures. So I'm pretty sure you would appreciate that that position on the north end of a domal feature, those large structures, they are the sorts of geological complexities that all us geos get excited about, and is the position for lots and lots of mineralisation all over the Archean greenstone belt. So we're in a very good geological environment, and I'll now drill further down into the project and give you some of the details. So that's getting in a little bit closer. That's a satellite image, and you can see on that image the Mount Catlin lithium mine. That keeps expanding. That's going flat out. Now held by Alchem, working away. And then all those red, you may not be able to read it, it's a bit distant. All those red names in there are basically half a dozen or so old mines. Turn of the century, typically just went under an ounce. They were very shallow. They exploited, the supergene enriched gold in the oxide zone. And, the recorded production is 23,000 tonnes at just under an ounce. All separate syndicates, small-scale things. The town of Ravensthorpe was largely built on these old mines, and it was a gold rush. There were thousands of people camped in the bush near those mines, and then the government came along and gazetted what is now the Ravensthorpe Township, and they moved down to there. So it got worked out, and there was a little bit of work in the 1930s again for a year or two, and then it really nothing happened there till the 80s when some of the modern exploration started in that area. Matana, for some of you, would probably remember those sorts of early companies. And they did some work on the projects. And then I acquired that project in 2003. I pegged that prospect. And I did what all good geologists do. We just walked straight up to the old mines and drilled underneath just to see where they kept going. And it wasn't much of a surprise. They do keep going. We got some really spectacular results. But, there were a dozen little things scattered over about a 5-kilometre range, and the gold price was just over 400 US, and the market was totally tanked. So I could not see any way advancing it at the time. So it sat there dormant for a few years, and then Galaxy on the lithium mine, which was lithium prospect, which was just south of where our ground was, started to coming. So it was the start of the lithium interest. So I cut a deal with Galaxy at the time. The deal was we got some cash, and we got free carry 20% on anything that was found through to production. But unfortunately, the years ticked by, and we had 16 years. So the Traka has been around for a while. 16 years of no activity, or virtually no activity. The gold price has gone to 1,800 a few years back. Things were looking good. All of a sudden, these little mines, were well worth looking at. So I recut the deal with Alcam. They've kept the lithium. I've got everything back 100%. And that was a bit over 2 years ago, and now we've got stuck into the gold and the copper. So it's an interesting story. And now, first thing I did was fly very high resolution aeromagnetics, and there's an image there, and that caught us by surprise. You might just be able to see some of the old Matana geochem. That's those black sort of northeasterly features, and there's some of the old mines. But you can see that circular feature, and that's that yellow line, elliptical line that I drew previously. And inside this, there was inside that ellipse, you've got these high points, the purple, the yellow and the orange, which we don't know what they meant. We could see that some of the old mines were on them, some of them weren't. We didn't really understand that, but it certainly started to make us think that, there is a real geological reasoning for this cluster of mines. So that was a pretty interesting outcome, but because I pegged that tenement very long time ago and it's getting old and we had to secure it. First, there's a picture of the old mine, turn of the century, Maori Queen, that was one of them. I immediately went to some of the existing prospects. Again, no rocket science there. I just drilled that down to about 80 metres. And we picked up that this was, a small resource, 31,000 tonnes, but quite high grade, 6 grams. We can see it goes on. We can see there are parallel structures, footwall and hanging wall, and it goes, and we're not going to drill that out. I needed to have a resource so I could secure a mining lease on the ground. So I put a resource there. I also drilled another one called Sirdar, slightly different. It looks like 5 plunging high-grade chutes. We drilled that down to about 80 metres as well. We ran into one of these flat pegmatite dikes, which is exactly what Alcam are currently mining next door to us for lithium. This one doesn't look like it has much lithium in it, but again, you can see 130,000 tonnes at 3.4, just down to about 80 metres. We did an IP, a geophysical survey over it. We can see that's associated with an anomaly that goes to depth. I stuck down a couple of holes, again, not in a systematic pattern, and you can just see it coincides with the IP and goes, and there's a intersection there. You can see 1.6 metres at 19 grams and higher grade bits in it. And we just know it looks like it's sitting on top of something. It looks like it's going to go to great depth. But we're not drilling that. We're not drilling Mary Queen. We're not drilling Surdar. We've got a dozen of these things to look at. That's another image of that. There's that circular feature. And we looked at Revelation. Now, Revelation is one of those targets that coincides with the magnetic high. And when we drilled that, we found the magnetite anomaly is because there's magnetite in the rock, but it's magnetite, it's garnet, it's agerine. This is a pretty weird host rock for the copper and gold mineralisation we got. It's a skarn, and those skarns sit around the edges of inside and around the edges of large intrusives. Not too dissimilar in some respects to what just Chris told you about. And so I thought, well, we're sitting on something pretty big here, and all we're doing is playing around the edges on late-stage structures and mineralisation coming up into these late-stage structures. So we thought, we're not drilling that anymore. We need to find out a little bit more, except that's a pretty interesting setting. This is Revelation. We modelled that. You can see it's near vertical intrusive. That's magnetics. And you can see the drill holes are put in, and you can see there's lots in copper and gold intercepts. Not particularly high grade, but it's everywhere, which I don't understand. But it also shows that I'd missed it, basically. I was drilling to one side. I stuck down an EM probe, and we got three EM anomalies, but they're running the wrong way. So my drilling was orientated a bit off, and that doesn't make sense. It tends to vector the fact that I should to go further right and I should turn the rig around a little bit more. So that's, again, unfinished business. But I'm just telling you this so you get a bit of a flavour for what this sort of project is about. This is just bits and pieces of a larger system. Back to that image there. So to reiterate a little bit, you can see Surdar, where you may remember I say, look, we've got this resource on top, we've got that flat-lying pegmatite, but it's on the edges of magnetic feature. You'd be forgiven for missing it if you were using magnetics as your target. We know it's coincident with an IP anomaly, and it goes to depth. And so, well, that was interesting. Revelation I've already talked about, and you can see where Mary Queen is to the north. So it's all pretty interesting, and you can see a lot of unfinished business there. Here's another example. This is well inside the intrusive. This is magnetics we're looking at, and you may just be able to make out some of the old Montana geochem. And we went to 3 of the old prospects. Some of them are mines, some of them just no more than little shallow pits. And Revival, there's 4 metres at 5.5 grams there, plus higher grade parts in it. Ellendale, 11 metres at 2.5. Copper and gold, Plantagenet 4 metres at 15. So you can see lots, and when we look at that in cross-section, again, I won't go into the details. The blue there is the copper, so you can see wide zones of copper, 20 metres to 50 metres of copper with gold all through it. Now, if we establish continuity here, just on that one structure, inside this intrusive complex is 1 kilometre, and that's a lot of drilling. But we aren't doing that. We're not drilling this at the moment. It's unfinished business. We've got a bigger agenda. Now, the bigger agenda is to understand the intrusive complex, the architecture of things. We're looking for company maker opportunities, and spending millions of dollars at the moment drilling out these other resources isn't the right timing. So there's the yellow circular feature, and we started using geochemistry, a footprint modelling. Scott Haley was some of his earlier work. I noticed Chris is using him as well. I've got there. Now you see the shadows there is what we've modelled to be the mother lodes or the mother intrusives down at depth. These things don't come to surface, so we're playing around the edges and on top of a bigger system. The red stipple through there is just some of the the geochemistry that comes to the surface. And Sirdar, you can see, sits over the top of one of these shadows, but we got this large shadow to the north, which we'll have a look at. There's another view of it. And so our intention now is to get some more data. We're doing some geochem. We're about to start some more geophysics. And we'll put into simplistic, that's a long section of the buried intrusives. We'll start adding some of the structures that we know exist so that we can design our next drill program. So we've got about 3 or 4 months of work to do, and then we'll turn on the drill rig again. That's just another image. Again, look at it in your own time. My time is out, so thank you very much.